Dear. Worst dressed. Well, aye. God blimey. Now, I started in 1973 at Dundee United. So, as you can imagine, with the greatest of respect, we weren't the snappiest of dressers in 1970 when we were getting paid diddly squat to play football. So gear was really at a premium. I have to confess, I wasn't great, guys, then. I wasn't great. I thought it was all right, but I wasn't great. Worst dressed. My goodness. Who? My missus is shouting at me. Don't forget to tell them about your Bumblebee shirt that I wore at Dundee United. When I won the Player of the Year award, I went in and I was all chuffed. I showed my missus a picture of it recently. Somebody had sent me it when I was 18, I think. And I've got this lovely shirt. It's massive, fucking Dickie boat. It looked like it was strangling me. And then this shirt.
You know what? I think I've seen that photo. I think I've seen that photo, by the way.
What's on that shirt? She says to me, I says, oh, that's Bumblebees. I thought, no. Right, if I look at Everton, say that was more recent. Who were the worst dressers at Everton?
Remember, it can be folk that you worked with on the telly and all that and all if you want.
Well, I'll tell you who. There you go. I've got one. Barry Venison. There you go.
Barry Venison. There we go.
Barry V. He used to come on with some rascal gear when we used to have him as a guest. And we had him quite often in the early days of Sky. And Barry V, he'd come on with a jacket that was just holes. It was full of holes.
So what you're telling us is Barry Venison's clothes were the deer? Hey!
Go! You are so good!
Different class. I'm on the wrong show. This is too good.
Right, Andy.
Oh, Barry V was up there. He had some rascal gear. I'm telling you. That's definitely me. But I always remember part of my philosophy was chip away at the referee from minute one, because eventually he'll get so fed up he'll give us something. So at every club I went to, I kind of took that mantra with me. So I never had to teach him much, but at Everton, Peter Reid was as good as any. Really was brilliant. He never shut up. He would chip away, him and I, because we were the experienced two in that team. We're more experienced than the rest with a young side. And he was brilliant at chipping away at people, getting into a referee's face, getting into a linesman's face, getting into the other players' faces. Really was brilliant at that. So he's right up there.
Got to be Souness, innit?
Got it. If I wanted to back somebody to back me up in a fight, Psycho Pat, as we called him, Pat Vanden Hal, who, Pat could unfreeze icebergs just by looking at them. He's that kind of guy, you know what I mean? Right. He was. We called him Psycho because he was. I mean, if I was in a fight, who would I want? I would want him right beside me. Definitely. Pat Vanden Hal. Well, McCoist will always tell you it was him, wouldn't he, at Rangers when I was there. Of course, I was the best looking there. Coist would be like, just had to look at my mail to see I was the best looking. You know? Coist would be up there in that team. I think at Everton, it was a good. Even like another Rangers player, Trevor Stephen, would have regarded himself. Tricky Trev would always thought, I'm a good looking boy. At Villa, who would it be? Giddy was like John Gidman, good looking boy. Mm-hmm. In his day. Wolves. Who would have been there at Wolves now? Probably Paul Bradshaw, the goalie, would have been up there. Yeah, but those would have been the ones. But probably Coisty. I mean, it couldn't be
Coisty.
Yeah, it could. I mean, at the moment, I don't know about that. I'll tell you something. Who did the manager go to at various clubs? Teacher's pet. Never had. I don't think we had one. Howard Kendall never really had a teacher's pet. Howard was just a man for all. I think that the only person who, at my first club I was at, it wasn't so much a pet, but he was the one who went to the manager all the time, with all the wee stories and told tales on the players. No, a guy called Dennis Mortimer, who was a very good player, by the way. But we kind of fell out with him, me and John Gidman, because he was always going behind backs and
snitch.
telling me stories to the gaffer that he shouldn't have done. So he was like that. So what do they call that? Teacher's pet. Who did the coaches love? Well, I'll tell you who wasn't Graham's pet, and that was Ali McCoist again. He definitely wasn't a teacher's pet one then. But no, I think that teachers' pets, it's funny because coaches have got to be careful that they don't kind of show too much to somebody. But if there was somebody that they always played when they maybe shouldn't have done, who would that have been? Nobody ever in the teacher's pet. No, they were all just good players. Rangers, Graham never had any teacher's pets, so he wouldn't entertain that. No, I think probably Dennis Mortimer was one of my early days, so I thought, he's the one. He's the one.
Right, mate.
David Cooper first, best ever Coops. I mean, I was just so lucky that which is going to sound daft. I was so lucky that I never played a lot when I was up there at Rangers because I spent most of my time with Coop because we were normally most games him and I were subs, and if we weren't playing, we'd go away and play with the reserves on the weekend. So I spent an awful lot of time with David that year. I was at Ibrox, and he was just the things he could do with a football were just mind-blowing. And when I came here to Qatar and became friendly and got to know Ruud Gullit really well, and
that's his hero in it, Ruud Gullit.
I've seen that. He's
his hero.
He's in his all-time 11. He's great.
He came to me and said, "You were at Rangers, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you? Was David Cooper still there?" I said, "Yeah." How do you know David Cooper? And he went, "I think David he's in my favourite all-time 11." I said, "What?" And it really, not that it surprised me that Coops wasn't good enough to win it, but it surprised me that Ruud knew
exactly.
It wasn't like today when every game was on the TV. You could hardly find games back then.
Exactly,
in the 70s and 80s, you couldn't find games on the telly. So the fact that Coops' legend had spread to somebody like the 3-time World Footballer of the Year,
that speaks volumes.
Speaks masses for Coops. And so I love Davies. I've always put him down as the most skillful I've ever played with. Trevor Stevens right up there as well. Brian Little, who I played with at Villa in the early days, he was just sensational as well. I was just all jealous of them, you know. It was you used to watch them with the football and think it was part of their body, you know what I mean? It was it was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Reedy. Peter Reid.
Definitely.
Yeah. We used to call him on Mondays, every Monday. He used to go at the weekend, play the game the Saturday, and he'd be at a club called Benny's, I think in Bolton or Manchester, one of the two. So every Monday, he'd come in, first thing he'd do, plastic bag over his gear, right, get ready for gear. Then the sweatshirt, the plastic bag would go on, then his top would go on, and that'd be him, and he'd start jogging around, and he'd be last. I mean, to be fair, I would normally be last with him, but he was jogging around, the sweat was just pouring out of him on a Monday. Nice night at Benny's weekend, Rudy? Yeah, not bad. But, I mean, when I say he was the worst trainer, he was never found wanting ever on a football pitch. But we used to laugh on a Monday about him, and it was the Benny syndrome we used to call it for Reedy when he trained. But most players are pretty good trainers. I mean, I remember when I was at Everton, I wasn't quick, and I can remember what you used to hate if you were ever injured at Everton. You used to think, please don't put me in a run with either Gary Stevens, again another ex-Rangers player, or Trevor Stevens. I said, because those two, I mean, they were racehorses. If you were ever in the same group as them, I used to just give up after 10 yards. That was me. They were a nightmare, but really I could keep up with every day. I don't know if I ever been at a football. I couldn't have been at a football club where...
You know what they say, Andy, if you don't know the answer, it's you.
I have to say, if it was me, I'd be a very rich man by the way, boys, if I didn't. So, no, I mean, that's a tough one because most of the guys I went out with are messed about with and were I regarded as my mates. We're pretty good at getting rounds in. There was nobody found wanting. Sharpie wasn't great, but he was always there. At Everton, Graham Sharp, another joke. Why am I saying? That's ridiculous. But Sharp, he was good as well. I mean, I don't think we had too many. Neville Southall wouldn't buy a drink because he didn't drink.
Right.
So Neville would not be putting his hand in his pocket, but he was so big and strong that no one mentioned it to him. He can get away with what he wanted, the big man. But he wouldn't buy a drink. Nev wouldn't buy a drink. No. Bam up, Merchant.
Aye.
Bam up.
Just a wind up, Merchant. Wind up.
Oh, you've been too long out of Scotland.
Bam up. Wind up. I'd understood.
Wind up.
Have we had the bam up?
Yeah, I've not heard the bam up. Well, obviously, McCoist State Rangers was a massive wind up Merchant at Rangers. I think bad at Villa. At Villa, we used to wind a few up at Villa. They were good. They were decent. Wind up Merchant. I mean, McCoist's as good as I've seen.
Aye.
I wasn't there when Gaza was there, sadly, because I've heard so many stories of Paul and what he did.
Kicking about him. The fish in the motor and all that.
Again, it's the same. I come to the same people because they're the kind of life and soul of the football clubs.
Aye.
Reedy loved a wind up. We had a wee group. We had the A team. It just shows you what the life was like. We had the A team and the B team. We used to call it at Everton. There was about 4 or 5 of us in the A team and about 5 of them in the B team. So it was a bit like that. So we used to wind them up quite a lot. And it was me, Reedy, like Sharpie and Adrian Heath, a couple of others. So Reedy was a good wind up Merchant as well. He was pretty good at that.
Exactly. Don't worry, you don't need to answer it.
You don't need to answer. You can pass if you want, Andy.
No, I'm not going to answer it. But what I will say, he's been mentioned already. Leave it at that.
That's all we need.
I'll leave it at that. Well, you might not like this, but it's true. It would be when they're playing for Scotland, and it would be Dalglish.
Aye.
I knew that was coming there, Andy.
It has to be. I cannot lie. He was every bit as good as people thought he was. He was an absolute joy to play with. I think I maybe had half a dozen, 7, 8 games with him with Scotland, and he was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Could see things and do things that others couldn't. And he was quick. He was tall. He was just brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant answer. Might be worth a fortune this day and age, Kenny Dow.
Yeah, you couldn't buy him, I don't think. No, you couldn't buy him.